Good morning. Look, it's an absolute pleasure for me to come and present the digital activity plan and the long-term plan to you this morning. Um, I'm the new incoming CIO head of digital. I joined the council in June this year. And, as you would expect coming into a new role and a new organization, I've spent the last few months really just looking at various aspects of digital from all angles, financial, delivery-wise, capability-wise, etc. The way I thought I will run the session, taking maybe 10 minutes at the max, is probably just take you through a bit of perspective from my end around looking at the overall context and how I can link that to what digital does for the council. But prior to that, I'll just give you a brief overview of my background because it's the first interaction I'm having with you, so it can sort of help you understand where I've come from. So, name is Anurag Madan. I have 30 plus years of experience in the technology industry. I worked in big consulting shops. I've spent time in banking, but the highlight of my career is the 20 odd years I've spent in public service. And that is a combination of work that I did when I was in Australia and about 16 to 17 years that I spent as a Chief Technology Officer at Ministry of Social Development, which was the highlight of my career. And sort of coming into this role, I have been quite impressed in some ways in terms of the digital unit and what it does on a day-to-day basis to support the council, in terms of achieving its mission. So let's take a bit of a 40,000 foot view, right? So when we look at the world we are operating in today, there are 4 or 5 themes that I would like to talk about and then link into what digital does. The very first one that we are all sort of experiencing on a day-to-day basis in our personal lives is the pace of change. So when I talk about the pace of change, I'll use an example here. If you look at likes of Facebook, Facebook took close to 6-7 years before it hit 100 million users. When you look at something like ChatGPT that is out today, it has taken only 3 months for that to hit 100 million users. In fact, when I talk about ChatGPT, my son, who's 14-year-old, was playing with ChatGPT before even I could think about what it could do for the business operating environment we are in. And what I'm trying to say about the pace of change is digital unit has a role to play there. And Smart Christchurch, which is a component of the overall activity plan, deals in some of those aspects, as how it is looking at the fringe of technology and looking at the things that can be relevant and doing some pilots, etc. That's one part of it. The second theme that I'm going to talk about is what we call technical debt, and I'll explain that with another example. Do you have, for example, at home, any laptop, desktop that is running Windows 2000? I'm talking Windows 2000. This was before even Windows XP came on. Guess what? We have some of those servers supporting our critical systems. That is not on, right? We need to do something about it. And we haven't been sitting on with our hands on. We are working actively to try and deal with that technical debt. And that constitutes, for example, in our capital plan, the Replace and Renewal Capital Program that is giving us the ability to chip away and retire this technical debt. Linking it to pace of change, as the pace of change increases, the obsolescence of your infrastructure becomes faster. So what was first supported for 15 years by the vendors now gets supported for 6 years, and then it goes out of life. So we need to be not just retiring technical debt, but keeping pace with it. The next one I'll sort of touch on is, and this is in no order, is cyber security. Now, the world we are in, as we are embracing the digital ways of working, it is exposing us, our citizens, countries, to a whole lot of cyber risks. And they are not just individuals, they could be even very well coordinated businesses, including state sponsored attacks, etc. The next one would be, talking about cloud, and you've heard about cloud, I'm sure in a number of contexts, and not just for the first time, but it's been a journey that the industry is talking for over a decade now, and it is maturing day by day. But what that has meant is technology is getting commoditized. It is easy for someone to swipe a credit card and buy a service from the cloud and get on with what they need to do. Just as an example, a startup, probably a decade or so back would have to find seed funding order of magnitude 50 to 100,000 to get off the ground for technology. Today, all they need is maybe a couple of $1,000, sign up to a few services, and they're away. So, that is the step change that we are seeing. Now, that has two, I guess, things to it. Number one is it increases shadow IT. That is, people who are finding some challenges at work with the right intent go and embrace solutions without thinking about the overall organization. And that shadow IT can hurt us, because where it sort of really comes to a head for us is when we need to integrate that information within a wider ecosystem. So I guess that's one strand. But the second strand of it is we now need to be in lockstep with the rest of the world in embracing cloud services. We need to work with the vendor partners like SAP and make sure that if they are putting their services on the cloud, that we are consuming it. Today, when you talk to them, they don't come and say, we will sell you a license to run it on-prem. They are always selling service models, all to be consumed, and it actually has value proposition for us. That means we need to reorient our staff in terms of what we do. So that is quite, current and sort of initiative, which is looking at under the continuous improvement bucket, how we are slowly trying to move more and more services to the cloud. And it is not an easy shift, right? Some things are easier compared to others. When it comes to legacy applications, they are not actually designed for the cloud. So you can't just lift and shift them. The price shock on that will be humongous. So we need to very carefully plan how we move those services to the cloud. And the last one that I'll touch on is customer expectations, as in citizen expectations. So today we walk around with our phones, and I've met many people who say their life runs based on that little gadget and device they have on their hands. And that is how they want to interact with us, right? So how do we make the right moves, take the right decisions, use and leverage technology to bring council services for them to use from their phones at their convenience, at their time? And that presents challenges for us. We need to look at human-centered approach of doing things. We need to think about 24/7 support models so that we can support any of the things that can go wrong in and any time of the day to help the citizens and make sure that their job or whatever transaction they're trying to do gets completed in a seamless fashion. So when you look at all of those 4 or 5 themes, that really touches on the things that you have seen here around technology enablement. That's one of the things we do. Information records management. Now, all the data and information that we collect, and there is terabytes and terabytes of it, and it is just going to compound and increase year on year. How do we protect that? How do we make sure we are compliant? There's a lot of work and controls and thinking that goes into it. Asset and infrastructure management. We as it is manage a lot of the technology infrastructure on behalf of the council, but there is also a component on how do we help the council manage the $18.2 billion worth of assets that we have, maintaining and managing on behalf of the citizens in the city. Technology support, this is around making sure that our staff, elected members, everyone gets technology support. Now, we do try to do our best and a great job in trying to make sure that we can, keep it as seamless. But that's the thing with technology, because of so many moving parts, there are things that will sometimes not hit the mark. But, the teams are pretty committed to making sure that we are keeping things as seamless and easy for consumption by everyone as possible. Cybersecurity, I touched on that. Again, it's a constant evolution that we need to keep in step with the rest of the world. And I spoke about Smart Christchurch. So that's, in a nutshell, the digital activity plan that I wanted to put present in front of you. The other two things that I would like to highlight, if I may, one would be sort of looking at the capital plan and just talking a little bit about what it means for us. So I think, one of the things that we've got on our plans, as you can see up there, is we have got a number of transformation initiatives that were started a few years back underway, and we need to make sure we can conclude them. And the plan that you see here My apologies. I think this is slightly older version, but maybe we can get the right version in front of you later. But we have got funding that is required to complete these programs loaded into our long-term plan, which is one thing that I just want to bring your attention to. The second thing which I would like to just mention is, as I was talking about the cloud-based services, it is going to put some challenges, and we are not unique in there. Every organization is going through how to move from a capex heavy model to an operational funded model. Because you are consuming them, you're not going to have to buy 10 anymore and install it and maintain it. Third party is doing it for you. It comes as an operational cost from an accounting principle perspective, that it cannot be treated as capital. So there is a shift in our operating budgets that we have asked for to accommodate for some of those things. So as we retire technical debt, we move it to the cloud, we will need more OpEx to run and support it. So that's those are the two key things I wanted to just bring to your attention. And I'll open it for questions.
Okay, Tyler, then Mark, please.
Kia ora. I've got a heavy interest in the digital space, particularly with smart cities. And I did put a question in the long-term planning questions a wee while back, but I'll ask it now. And I wanted to talk about this on-demand culture we have with our consumers and ratepayers, particularly with the reliance on these.
Yep.
I personally have downloaded all of the apps of our family apps, such as the Bin Good app, Snaps and Solve, all of those things. And one thing I realized was it's hard to navigate between apps, first of all.
Spot on.
And I'm wondering what your thoughts were on a consolidated Christchurch City Council app that has everything, including CSRs, how much rates they need to pay, notifications for events like What's On, for example. What are your thoughts on having a consolidated Christchurch City Council app that's easy to use?
So thank you. Very good question. And it's a good segue to talk about the Digital Citizen Experience program that's up there. So one of the things that we have done there, and we are just in the process of implementing, is a digital citizen identity piece, which is a foundation piece. So that sort of concludes and goes live, before Christmas or early in the new year, depending on, the brownout period that we need to take care of. But the digital citizen experience is precisely doing what you've just asked. It is looking at all of these disparate apps that you've got there and how we can then bring it within the context of the digital citizen who logs in. So Anurag Madan is logged in. He can see his property rates. So we have got a program of work that is going to iteratively bring some of these things to life. And we've got an approach that is looking at leveraging and harnessing our current technology platforms like SAP and how we could do that. And we are also looking at some of the human-centered approaches to make sure that the experience that we deliver through those is going to be, if not the best thing to try and beat Google or Microsoft, but as close as we can get to it. But it is intended to really try and bring all of those things together. It is the door to your digital interaction with Christchurch City Council.
Of course. So if, say, for example, if we were to utilize a centralized app that's consolidated, but you're using all of these different softwares and platforms across different units, you have the ability to branch out to those?
Yep. So there are mechanisms and technologies available that can make it quite seamless without making them feel as if they have to jump out of it and go somewhere. So there may be some limitations if it is a third-party product, and if they are not up, in terms of technology to that point, we'll have to just cross the bridge on those as we sort of delve into those. But in the main, we should be able to accomplish that, the kind of one facade for the citizens, so they get in and they can do all the things through that.
So essentially, there won't be any double handling of.
Yes, that's the intent. Is we can do the handshakes between these behind the scenes, remove that complexity from the citizens, so they can just get on and do what they need to do.
Okay,
Thank you.
So
Got a lot of questions coming.
yeah, one really quick one
And we've got
is around AI.
Yep.
It's probably got interest for everyone here. With my multicultural portfolio hat on, I've noticed that there's a particular inequity with funding applications. Those that are paid 40 hours a week to actually do funding applications as a job tend to usually get the money a lot easier than what someone in the community would get, particularly around language barriers, etc. Would the digital group, even working alongside the community department, be open and interested into providing ChatGPT workshops to help, one, the community groups work through with the community on that, and also utilize the ChatGPT app?
There is certainly possibility. It's not just us, but we have got good partnership
multiple
and
ways.
relationship with Microsoft and other players, so we can bring some of that to the table to try and help the community groups. No trouble. And I think when it comes in terms of enabling something, I think we just need to think a little bit from a council perspective, because all of these things are great, but they come with security risks. So as long as we can balance offering something which is a council service to cover ChatGPT in any way, shape, or form, we just need to make sure that we are comfortable with the risk posture and risk profile of it. Because today, if you were looking at any open ChatGPT options, anything that you talk to it sits in the public domain. And we just need to sort of think about, is that okay for us or not? But technically, yes, it's all possible, but we just
Thank
need
you very
to go
much.
through that.
We really must move on. Mark, please.
Thank you. Exciting to hear what you've got there in your
Thank
digital
you.
area. I'm thinking around the smart cities type patch, and do we have the ability to, quickly develop and implement smart monitoring solutions for things like noise, dust, odors, that sort of thing, to try and intelligently
Yeah.
and remotely monitor?
I think that commoditization of some of these things does certainly lend itself to finding innovative ways to solve some of these problems. If they are quite isolated in nature, as in you are having to monitor certain things and it is quite well contained, I think they are easier to achieve. Like I said, when it comes to integration is where the complexities come. So there is certainly a possibility.
Yep, certainly keen to try and make sure you're
Sure.
empowered to be able to move in that space
Sure,
as quick as we could to become intelligent in it.
sure. Thank you. No, I
Thank you, Mark.
appreciate that.
Tyrone, please.
This is probably too high level a question for this forum, but I'll ask it anyway. We've got so many councils and territorial authorities across the country, right? And to a large extent, they all do the same thing.
Mm.
And so, to what level and to what extent do we leverage off each other, like on digital solutions? And like the Mackenzie district, for example, doesn't have a ginormous digital team. So how do they do this stuff? And to what extent do we support them? How do we just leverage off each other just to do the same things over and over and over again?
Yeah.
As TAs,
Yeah. So I guess, look,
it's probably too big a question.
No. I mean, I think I can certainly talk to the fact that I'm part of some of the CIO group meetings that are touching on all of these entities coming together. It's a little bit early in the piece for me to sort of say how we are harnessing and doing some of these things. But to your point, there's nothing stopping us from doing that. It's about basically getting the organization involved to try and look at how some of these things can be done.
So is there anything that we can do to support that?
Absolutely, we can. Yeah.
Thank you. Yanni, please.
Yeah, I guess I'm quite concerned at the shift to OPEX, because that's going to be a massive rates increase. I was just looking at the figures, like $88 million worth of software. So if we have to operationalize that, that's a massive rates impact.
Yeah.
So is that proposed in this LTP that we do that?
So in this LTP, what we have proposed is what we think is going to be the shift we will achieve from on-prem to cloud-based implementations, and proportional increase in operational money for that. So that is for, just to sort of give you a sense, we are looking at, at least for the next 3 years, we are looking at a $1.5 million uplift in OPEX to support some of that shift from CapEx, from on-prem to cloud. So about $4.5 million over 3 years.
Okay. I guess the concern is, and I still don't really get a sense of, for those of us who've been here for a while, what we've found is that we get told the contractors have this technology, it's great, we give them the contract, we're gonna get all this data, and then we seem to be forever having to invest in new software, new IT, because we don't have the data from the contractors, and we've got huge gaps in terms of asset management, asset condition, contractor performance, etc. So I guess I'm just a little bit concerned that we've sort of heard all of the stuff around needing to improve, but we still seem to be in quite a bad place. I don't know if that's a fair comment, but I know at the last, I think, LTP or annual plan, we invested considerably into some sort of more mobile-based solutions. But are we seeing a sweet spot of where our investment is paying off, and how do we articulate that to the community?
Yeah, I can certainly say that, some of the things that we have been able to achieve, even when it comes to technical debt, by virtualizing all our old kit, is certainly helping. Otherwise, we would be running on really old tin, which is even more risky for the organization. look, I can't 100% talk to the plan that was put forward, but I do certainly see that, again, the amount of technical that we're talking about, 1,000 plus servers, and close to 2,000 applications. That will take some time for us to really do the shift from them running on-prem to the cloud. So, but we are definitely, based on what I have seen in the last few months, making the shift and moving things in a systematic way to the cloud.
Just to say, I strongly support looking at what other councils in
Yep.
Australia and New
Okay.
Zealand are doing, and also the whole human-centered approach.
Yep.
Thank you, Yannick. No,
yeah.
we've got very little time left. Tim, please, then Vic.
Yeah, just to follow on from that, with regards to our, I think it's essential for your team to work with our call centre, because we've got to keep that human
Yes,
side of it.
absolutely.
I don't know if you've ever run lately in New Zealand. It's a waste of time, and I think they got voted the worst in New Zealand. And if you go to a bank, you always go to a new customer because they'll actually answer the phone. So that's absolutely crucial for us. I was talking to a CE recently in Canada. They, with AI, they now, in their entire company, no one answers with their name, because the AI ability to get your name and then for criminal activity or to try and they said it's the move is so fast, as you kind of outlined. It's insane. And the last one is probably for smart cities, but something to think about. Again, New Zealand is so far behind. I went to Sydney recently. Tap on and tap off with your credit card or whatever it is on any transport. It's all the same. And so we've really got to hopefully talk with ECAN and other, that's kind of like other councils, and one card to rule them all would be absolutely amazing.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you. Can I say thank you for taking the time to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more? Are you two finished?
Sorry.
Thank you for taking the time to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your professional background. Thank you for that. I was interested in the matters that Tyrone and Yanni have raised. The follow-up question for me is, how do we sit, where do we sit comparatively to other local trading authorities, territorial authorities in New Zealand and perhaps globally on our digital journey?
So I think that we are certainly, at least we are having a plan. I think we have not nailed some of the digital self-service approaches 100%. I think that is currently something that's on the radar, and we are actively working to try and bring that to life. All the thinking is there. It's about now turning that into a product and a service model that can, be implemented. So I would say, in comparison, look, I wouldn't have any metrics up my sleeve, but I certainly think that we need to do more work in terms of speeding up on some of these things.
Yeah, I did have 5, but I'll just do the one. Do we do, so I noticed we've got the fees and charges, and it's a pretty small amount. Do we do anything across the group in terms of IT support? So I'm thinking VO, Christchurch NZ, CCHL, and the companies. Do we look at any economies of scale, given we have such a decent sized IT team?
Yeah.
And if not, why not?
Well, I can certainly say that I've had some conversations around it with, for example, Leah, and even prior with Dawn. But I think right now our focus is supporting the council, Banks Peninsula, and I'm not sure about the CCHL linkage, but I believe there was once some, and I think we are now kind of reduced our services that we provide to them. But I totally agree. I mean, there is, from a shared services perspective, an opportunity we have as a big IT shop to support a wider sort of range of stakeholders. But nothing that has sort of hit my radar based on what I have done in the last few months to really be able to comment on it and from a knowledge point of view.
It would be quite good to take that away, because I think right across the group, we should be using our in-house
100%.
team. I mean, and while we're at it, payroll and the like should all be the same. We're employing people, we've got the overhead here. It makes sense to do it across the group when we're trying to find and save every.
Totally agree.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good idea.
Cool.
Yep.
So can we? Yep. Thanks.
Yep. Sure.
Thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Brilliant, and very, very enlightening presentation. Thank you very much.
Oh, cheers. No, my
And
pleasure.
I'm scared to death that we've still got computers from 2000.
Yes, that is get off gyms, and we are retiring it this year. So please don't worry about it.
Very good example.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.